Jake opens a Roth IRA. Marcus maxes out his 401k. They both think they're making the smart play. They're both right about something and wrong about something else. And when you actually run the numbers over 30 years, the gap between getting this decision right and getting it wrong is bigger than most people realize. Not because one account is better, but because most people never understand what they're actually choosing between. Let's keep this fair. Jake and Marcus are both 28 years old. They both earn $75,000 a year. They're both responsible. They both save $500 a month for retirement. Same discipline, same income, same starting line. The only difference is where that $500 goes. Marcus puts his $500 a month into his employer's 401k. His company matches 50% of contributions up to 6% of his salary, which means Marcus gets an extra $187 a month in free money just for participating. His total monthly retirement contribution is effectively $687. He doesn't think much about taxes. The $500 comes out of his paycheck before he ever sees it, which means it reduces his taxable income right now. At a 22% federal tax bracket, that $500 contribution only costs him about $390 out of pocket after the tax savings. Marcus feels like he's hacking the system. Jake puts his $500 a month into a Roth IRA, no employer match, no tax deduction today. That $500 comes out of his take-home pay after taxes are already taken out. He contributes the maximum $7,000 allowed annually. It hurts a little more in the moment because he doesn't get a tax break today. But Jake knows something that most people in their 20s don't bother to think about. He knows what that money is going to be worth when he takes it out, and more importantly, he knows how much of it he actually gets to keep. On day one, Marcus looks like the obvious winner. He's getting free money from his employer. He's reducing his tax bill right now. His effective cost per dollar saved is lower than Jake's. If you showed this setup to most people and asked who's winning, they'd say Marcus without hesitating. But day one is not the scoreboard that matters. For the first few years, both accounts grow quietly in the background. Marcus is invested in a mix of index funds inside his 401k. Jake is doing the same inside his Roth IRA. At 7% average annual returns, the math is nearly identical in the accumulation phase. Money doesn't know what kind of account it's sitting in. A dollar growing at 7% inside a 401k looks exactly like a dollar growing at 7% inside a Roth IRA. For years 3, 5, and 7, the accounts look similar on paper, but there's a difference that isn't visible in the balance. Every dollar sitting in Marcus's 401k has a silent business partner. That partner hasn't shown up yet. He doesn't announce himself during the accumulation years, he just waits. His name is the IRS, and he owns somewhere between 22% and 37% of everything in that account. Marcus just doesn't know the exact percentage yet because he doesn't know what tax rates will look like in 2055. Every dollar sitting in Jake's Roth IRA has no silent partner. The IRS already got their cut. Jake paid it at 22% when he was 28, on income he was earning at the beginning of his career. Whatever grows from here is entirely his. This is the fundamental difference between a 401k and a Roth IRA that the monthly contribution conversation completely hides. A 401k gives you a tax break now and sends you a bill later. A Roth IRA sends you a bill now and gives you a tax break later. And depending on where your income goes over a 30-year career, that timing difference can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's run the actual numbers through year 10. Marcus has contributed $500 a month for 10 years plus $187 a month in employer match. His total contributions, including the match, are roughly $82,440. At 7% average annual returns, his 401k balance is approximately $114,000. On paper, Marcus is clearly ahead. The employer match gave him a head start that compounds over time. Jake has contributed $500 a month for 10 years with no employer match. His total contributions are $60,000. At 7% average annual returns, his Roth IRA balance is approximately $86,000. Jake is behind by nearly $28,000. Anyone watching from the outside would say Marcus is winning, and they'd be right, for now. But two things are quietly building beneath the surface that the balance comparison doesn't show. First, Jake's $86,000 is entirely his. No tax liability, no RMDs, no conditions. If he wanted to withdraw it at retirement, he'd keep every single dollar. Marcus's $114,000 has a tax bill attached to it. At a 24% effective rate in retirement, his $114,000 is really worth about $86,640 after taxes. Suddenly, they're not that far apart. Second, Jake has more flexibility than Marcus realizes. Roth IRA contributions, not earnings, just the money he put in, can be withdrawn at any time without penalty. If Jake faces a genuine financial emergency in year 8, he can pull out his $60,000 in contributions with no taxes and no penalties. Marcus cannot do that with his 401k. An early withdrawal before age 59.5 triggers income taxes plus a 10% penalty. That flexibility gap isn't a number, but it has real value. Now here's where the story fully turns. Marcus gets promoted at 38. Then again at 44. By the time he's in his mid-50s, he's earning $140,000 a year. He's successful. His career went the way it was supposed to, and this is where his 401k starts to work against him in a way he never expected. Every dollar in Marcus's 401k will be taxed at whatever his income tax rate is when he withdraws it. If Marcus retires at 65 with $1.4 million in his 401k and withdraws $80,000 a year to live on, the IRS treats that $80,000 as ordinary income. He'll pay federal taxes on it. He may push himself into a higher bracket than he expected. And starting at age 73, the government forces him to take required minimum distributions, a minimum amount he must withdraw each year whether he needs the money or not. The RMDs are calculated based on his account balance, and in a good market, they can push him into brackets that cost him more than he planned. Marcus did everything right. He saved consistently, took the employer match, let it compound. But the structure of his account means he doesn't fully control the tax outcome at retirement. The government has a claim on his account and a schedule for collecting it. Jake at 65 has a different situation. His Roth IRA has no RMDs. He doesn't have to withdraw a single dollar if he doesn't want to. He can let it sit, keep growing, and pass it to his kids. When he does withdraw, it's all tax-free. His $80,000 a year in retirement is $80,000 he actually keeps, not $80,000 minus whatever the current tax rate happens to be. The number on his statement is the number in his pocket. Let's check the scoreboard at retirement. Age 65, 37 years of contributing. Marcus contributed $500 a month with a $187 monthly employer match, $687 total for 37 years. At 7% average annual returns, his 401k balance is approximately $1,620,000. That looks extraordinary. But at a blended 24% effective tax rate on withdrawals, his after-tax value is roughly $1,231,000. Jake contributed $500 a month with no employer match for 37 years. At 7% average annual returns, his Roth IRA balance is approximately $1,178,000. Every dollar is his. After-tax value, $1,178,000. Marcus wins on gross balance. Jake wins on after-tax value per dollar. The employer matches the difference. Without it, the Roth IRA would come out clearly ahead on an equivalent contribution basis once taxes are factored in. This is the point of the whole exercise. The 401k balance that looks bigger isn't necessarily worth more. You don't spend your gross balance. You spend your after-tax income. And the account that gives you the most control over your tax situation in retirement is usually the one that wins in the real world. The contribution limit is the number everyone talks about. It's the number in the news article, the number on the IRS website, the number your HR department mentions during open enrollment. What they don't explain clearly is what happens to that money on the other end. Required minimum distributions. Starting at age 73, the IRS forces 401k holders to withdraw a minimum amount each year based on their account balance and life expectancy. In a good market, these distributions can be larger than you need to live on, pushing you into higher brackets, increasing the taxes on your Social Security benefits, and potentially triggering higher Medicare premiums. A Roth IRA has no RMDs during the owner's lifetime. None. Tax rate uncertainty. Nobody knows what tax rates will look like in 2045 or 2055. The current top federal rate is 37%. In 1980, it was 70%. In the 1950s, it was over 90% for high earners. When you contribute to a 401k, you're making a bet that your tax rate at withdrawal will be lower than your current rate. When you contribute to a Roth IRA, you're locking in today's rate. Given the trajectory of national debt, many tax experts believe rates are more likely to rise than fall over the next few decades. The Roth is insurance against that possibility, the income phase out. Roth IRAs come with income limits. In 2024, the ability to contribute phases out for single filers earning above $146,000 and disappears entirely above $161,000. If Marcus had been following Jake's strategy and his income climbed past that limit, he'd be locked out of new Roth contributions entirely. There are workarounds. The backdoor Roth conversion, but they add complexity. The 401k has no income limit for contributions. If I only showed you the Roth IRA's advantages, I wouldn't be giving you the full picture. The 401k has real concrete benefits that people who exclusively praise the Roth tend to downplay. The employer match is the single most powerful argument for prioritizing a 401k. If your employer matches 50% of your contributions up to 6% of your salary, that's an instant 50% return on that portion of your money before the market does anything. No investment strategy on earth reliably guarantees a 50% return in year one. Walking away from a full employer match to prioritize a Roth IRA is one of the most expensive mistakes a saver can make. The match always comes first. Full stop. The higher contribution limit matters too. In 2024, you can contribute up to $23,000 to a 401k. The Roth IRA limit is $7,000. For high earners who want to shelter as much income as possible from taxes right now, the 401k offers nearly 3 times the capacity. If you're in your peak earning years and in a high tax bracket, deferring that income until retirement, when your income and bracket may be lower, is a legitimate and often correct strategy. And if you're in a genuinely high tax bracket right now, say 32% or 37%, the math sometimes does favor the traditional 401k over the Roth. If your tax rate in retirement will be meaningfully lower than your current rate, the traditional account wins. The problem is that most people overestimate how much lower their retirement tax rate will be and underestimate how much wealth they'll actually accumulate. Here's where the full picture comes together. The real answer isn't Roth or 401k. The real answer is both, actually in the right order. Step 1, contribute to your 401k up to the full employer match. This is not optional. Free money with a guaranteed 50% or 100% return is the highest value move in personal finance, and it isn't close. Step 2, max out your Roth IRA, $7,000 a year. You're young, probably in a lower bracket than you'll be in your peak earning years, and every dollar that grows tax-free for 30 years is a dollar you keep entirely. This is where the Roth's advantage is most powerful. Early in your career, when current tax rates are low and compound growth has the most time to work. Step 3, if you have more to save after maxing the Roth, go back to your 401k and contribute up to the annual limit. Over 37 years, someone who follows this sequence, capturing the full employer match, maxing the Roth IRA, then continuing in the 401k, will almost always end up with more after-tax wealth than someone who chose one account exclusively. The sequence isn't exciting. It doesn't make for a viral headline, but the math doesn't care about excitement. Jake and Marcus both walked into their HR offices at 28 thinking they were making the smart play. Jake thought tax-free growth was the obvious move. Marcus thought free money from his employer was the obvious move. Neither of them was completely wrong, but neither of them had mapped out what their choice would cost them in taxes, in flexibility, in real after-tax dollars over 30 years. The real trap isn't the Roth IRA, and it isn't the 401k. The real trap is picking one without understanding what you're actually choosing between. A tax break now versus a tax break later, and without knowing your own situation well enough to know which one you need more. And if you're thinking the obvious next step is figuring out how to convert what's already in your 401k into a Roth without a massive tax bill, that's a completely different conversation. And the timing of that decision can be worth more than everything else combined. But for now, the next time someone asks whether you should do a Roth or a 401k, don't answer fast. Ask yourself one question first. When do you want to pay the IRS? Today, when you know the rate, or later when you don't? Because everything else flows from that answer. And that's the only question that actually matters.